This is All About Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things questions and markets related to Bitcoin, little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B for the network. A collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation, all Bitcoin, all the time. I'm your host, Christie Lee. Let's have a live look at Bitcoin right now. The CoinDesk Bitcoin price XVX index is now at $49,182. Bitcoin slightly bouncing back up from the weekend's decline, now up about 0.4%. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news, events, and data. All right, we have a bit of breaking news, and the verdict is in. Craig Wright is not liable for breaching a Bitcoin mining business partnership with Dave Kleiman. A Miami jury deciding Monday, however, that Wright will have to pay $100 million to W&K Info Defense on one count of conversion, leaving Wright victorious in all but one charge. Joining us now to discuss is CoinDesk Technology Managing Editor Christie Harkin in Toronto. Hello there, Christie. So give us the lowdown of what's been decided in this lengthy and expensive Craig Wright case.
I think the important thing to start off with is to highlight what was not decided in this case. What was not decided in this case is who Satoshi Nakamoto is. That was not actually on trial here. The two sides of the case, Craig Wright and the Kleiman estate, both operated under the presumption that Craig was, in fact, Satoshi Nakamoto. They made that assumption to begin with, and everything sort of took off from there. However, that assumption has been widely criticized in the Bitcoin community. Lots of online sleuthing it's never actually been proven. It's not been proven in court. It's not been proven online. Like, nobody really knows.
But there's billions of dollars of Bitcoin on the line. And so
there were millions of dollars of Bitcoin on the line in addresses that, for the most part, have not even been authenticated as being under Craig Wright's control. So that was not even discussed so much in the case. There were no blockchain forensic analysts come in who went and looked through the accounts, looked through the Bitcoin addresses to determine whether or not those Bitcoins actually belong to Craig Wright or to the Kleiman estate. That was never at issue. It started with the assumption that this was true, and they looked at the case from a business perspective. What was at issue was whether or not Dave Kleiman, who passed away in 2013, whether he and Craig Wright had a business arrangement, and if that arrangement existed, whether or not he and his estate were entitled to a share of any Bitcoins that were mined by that business, any intellectual property rights that were generated through that business. And there were something like 7 different charges brought against Craig Wright by the Kleiman estate, in which they were asking for something like $126 billion in intellectual property, $36 billion for the value of the Bitcoin in dispute, and $17 billion for punitive damages. And at the end of the day, and here, this is also interesting, the jurors had a really hard time, an unexpectedly hard time coming to a verdict, partially because they could not really parse what was going on, and they couldn't agree on any of the counts. This was the one count that they were able to agree on definitively in favor of the plaintiff. And again, the rest of them, they just decided in favor of Wright. So $100 million is, that's not chump change. So the plaintiffs certainly did manage to get a verdict. Now, whether they'll be able to collect on that is another matter. Craig Wright has already said that he's would be actually paying that money to a company, W&K, that his ex-wife and his current wife own the majority interest in, so he'd kind of be paying his own family anyway. And even that ownership of the company is being litigated in court in Palm Springs. So who he's going to be paying this money to is another matter altogether. And that's another court case we'll have to keep our eye on. A lot of ins and outs on this.
So, right, he's going to essentially have to pay into this W&K Info Defense. That has, does the Kleiman estate have any share of that, even if they...
Yeah, I think they are worth I think they hold about a third of that. But again, it's all up for dispute. Everything is being disputed right now. So
it's not the end of it, is what you're telling me.
It's not entirely the end of it. But just to be clear, the jury did not in any part of the judgment say that Craig Wright is Satoshi. That was not part of the verdict. It's not what was decided. It was whether or not Craig Wright owes the Kleimans any money.
And if $100 million is what the decision has been, assuming that he has access to over about 1.1 million Bitcoins worth billions of dollars, how will that money be paid? I mean, if he is Satoshi as he claims, will he have to liquidate some Bitcoin holdings?
Well, here's the thing. The jury could have actually awarded the Kleiman estate an amount of Bitcoin. It decided not to. It put 0 Bitcoin in the awards category. Every question that they answered, whether or not Craig was, whether they were finding in favor of the plaintiff or the defense, they could have awarded an amount in Bitcoin and or an amount in dollars. And they chose not to award any Bitcoin and only to award $100 million. So if Craig Wright has $100 million kicking around somewhere, he doesn't have to move a single Bitcoin. He's a self-professed multimillionaire too, I believe. So, maybe he can scare up that money from some other accounts and he won't need to move the Satoshi Bitcoins.
Such an incredibly convoluted case, because now he'll have to pay into this W&K Info Defense that his wife and ex-wife are owners to, and then what? Where do we go from here?
Well, we've heard a few different takes from Craig Wright. He told us at one point last week, he told our reporter on the ground, Deirdre Funchen, that he said something along the lines of good luck trying to collect it because the money's all in his ex-wife's name anyway. And then today he was saying, so I get to send money to my wife and ex-wife, no big deal. So I'm not entirely sure where the money is going to come from. He has intimated that it's money owed by his or owned by or controlled by his ex-wife. And so they're going to have to go. It's, again, a lot of ins and outs. And I think that will be the next thing to watch, is where that money is going to come from and if he's got it and if he feels that he needs to send it. I don't know. That'll be up to him.
All right. And we still don't know who Satoshi is. Thank you so much, Christie. Really appreciate you coming onto the show and explaining this convoluted case to us. That was CoinDesk Technology.
Lots of great reporting. Lots of great reporting by Cheyenne Magon and Deirdre Funchen on CoinDesk. So you can actually read through, day by day what's been going on and put it all together yourself.
CoinDesk.com. Check it out. That was CoinDesk Technology Managing Editor Christie Harkin. Coming up, Bitcoin price analysis with Chris Kline of Bitcoin IRA. Welcome back. Crypto exchanges are on the move. The world's largest crypto exchange, Binance, is hiring staff in the UK and plans to file for regulatory approval with the Financial Conduct Authority, according to local media sources. And New York-based Gemini is also seeking to allow crypto trading in Colombia under a government-sponsored pilot program. Meanwhile, banks need to approach crypto-related activities very carefully, cautions the OCC, the top U.S. bank regulator, outlining in their semi-annual risk report that while digital assets can lead to quote, opportunities for the banking sector, it emphasized there are risks to banks and they should check with their OCC supervisor before they begin offering any services. And crypto mining stocks continuing a December slump, with New York-based Cipher Mining down over 12, as low as 12% today. Miners are the most levered to Bitcoin and Ether prices, as most are holding onto mined coins on their balance sheet. Nevertheless, Bitcoin miner Greenidge Generation is the lone gainer, rising almost 11% in a rebound following its sharp decline last week after U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren expressed concern about the miners' environmental footprint.
The chart of the day is brought to you by Crypto.com, the world's fastest growing crypto app.
A sell-off in the spot market over the weekend triggered several $100 million worth of futures liquidation, sending prices plummeting even further. Crypto analyst Low Strife tweeting out this chart suggesting derivatives exchange Deribit led the decline. You can see Deribit's BTC perpetual futures contract falling much harder compared to Coinbase's BTC USD pair in orange. Bitcoin slowly recovering to the $49,000 level after dropping nearly $10,000 in roughly an hour to as low as around $42,000 on Saturday. The precipitous drop came in response to a broader sell-off across financial markets, which have been spooked by the Omicron coronavirus variant, Fed Chair Jerome Powell's comments on inflation no longer being transitory, and disappointing U.S. job growth. This past weekend's sudden retreat marks Bitcoin's biggest price drop since a May sell-off, when Bitcoin fell about 27% over a 24-hour period. But unlike the aftermath of the May drop, investors this time bought up Bitcoin quickly, including El Salvador, where President Nayib Bukele tweeted about buying 150 coins at an average price in U.S. dollars of $48,670. Joining us now to discuss is Chris Kline, Chief Operating Officer at Bitcoin IRA. Hello there. Brian, Chris, thanks for joining us. So what is your outlook on Bitcoin after this weekend's drop?
First, it's nice to be back. It's a pleasure seeing you again. At the end of the day, what you nailed it is the response to this market correction is what's fundamental. And yeah, was it driven by characteristics of DeFi that's out there and derivatives and other things? Absolutely. However, the way that clients and individuals, institutions, and countries are responding is a buying opportunity. Something that they maybe didn't expect, since Bitcoin started off the year at 28,000, has risen almost to above 69,000 and now is back here in that $49,000-$50,000 range. In general, consumers don't seem to be flinching, notably El Salvador and others that are buying the dip.
Right. Interestingly, 3/4 of your clients are over the age of 45, and about 1/3 of near retirees between the age of 55 and 64 are invested in cryptocurrencies. So tell me about these demographic trends you're seeing at your firm.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to say that 75% are born before 1976. Exactly, born before 1976. And the reason why a lot of mid-aged, it's not just a young investor's game anymore. Cryptocurrency is something that you nailed it earlier about the concerns of inflation and other moving parts. Inflation is not going anywhere, whether they call it transitory or not. And folks like participants on our platform see a potential for a hedge against inflationary measures ahead.
Well, then how do you handle this short-term volatility? Because, as you grow older, you want to be able to have more liquid money, more liquid funds. So how do you handle something like Bitcoin, which just had this huge drop over the weekend?
Has a lot of volatility, correct. I think a lot of folks say nowadays, when in doubt, zoom out. Most retirement holders are not looking at this as day-to-day funds. They're still got 10 or 15 years left of their workforce time, or they're aggregating a potential wealth for the tail end of their retirement. So when you zoom out, you're going to see there are aberrations and things move along the way. That's what makes Bitcoin Bitcoin. And crypto, this is not uncharacteristic of the industry. And so for them, the short-term blips are usually something that they get kind of even and smoothed out across a 3 to 5 year holding period.
All right. So, Chris, what's your end of year outlook on Bitcoin? Do you have a price target?
I don't forecast, but I'll foreshadow. How's that sound?
Sounds
good. I feel like we're going to see a little bit calmer of a year end than we anticipated. A lot of folks were banging the drum for $75,000, $100,000 opportunities, and if it ran the other direction, that might have been absolutely true. I think we're going to see a little calmness, but opening in 2022 Q1 could be very bullish. Because, like I said, there's no magic bullet to what 10 years of printing money has done to our economy. Central banks are going to have to react, and it's going to be an interesting outlook for this next couple quarters.
All right, Chris, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your insights. That was Bitcoin IRA COO Chris Kline. That's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christie Lee. We'll do it all over again tomorrow at 3 p.m. in New York. Also join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for First Mover. You're watching CoinDesk TV.